Hello, everybody. Tim Hughes here. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. Today, I've got with me Corrie Jones. Corrie, it's been great to have you on today.
Thanks.
We appeared in a panel the other week, and you were really insightful. So I wanted to get you on here to talk. Before we do, where can people get hold of you?
People can get hold of me anywhere on social media. If you search Corrie Jones on LinkedIn, then I will pop up. And on Twitter and Instagram, I am Corrie F. Jones.
Fantastic. And today we're going to talk about the 5 pillars of social media strategy.
Yes.
In a very short amount of time, but we're going to get through 5 pillars.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody needs to have a social media strategy. They need to be thinking that rather than there's too many people that have got it as a tactic and they need to have a strategy. So in terms of the 5 things, what are the 5 things that people need to think about?
Yeah, sure. So the first one that you should always start with for your strategy for social is goal setting. And Not enough people do this. So many people start using social and don't think strategically about it at all. But the goals that you set for your social media should always map back to what your ultimate business and marketing goals are. So social media should be feeding into that to support all of your other business activity. It shouldn't be siloed on its own, going crazy and no one really knows what the purpose is. But you should have your aim, and then how you can kind of track the ROI and the return on investment of what social media is doing to help meet that business aim.
So when you talk about the business aim, you mean if your business is selling cakes, then social media should be about selling cakes. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So if you're in a stage of business where you're looking to grow and build awareness with more people, then the aim of your social media should be that you get more eyeballs onto your page, you get in front of more people, people find out about you that didn't know that you sold cakes before. And so the measures of success that you look at should be reach and impressions, and rather than just saying, oh, we want to get more likes or we want to get more followers, or these kind of more arbitrary vanity metrics, actually tracking it back and looking at, okay, what is the business trying to achieve in this next 6 to 12 months, and how can social support that? And it's not to say that there would just be one aim of social media, or that the aim of social media would never change, because obviously your business will be growing and evolving, and as the business does, then your social channels can as well.
Good. And in terms of in terms of goals, I think, first and foremost, I think that needs to come from all stakeholders, isn't it? It's not just one person in a silo. It needs to come across the whole of the business, and everybody needs to be bought into about why you're doing it.
Definitely. And I think there is an issue in a lot of businesses that some stakeholders aren't necessarily bought in on social media, but having a really clear goal can help with that buy-in process, because if everyone's on the same page about what you're trying to achieve with social media, it doesn't just feel like this kind of fun, whimsical element of marketing, but it actually will feel like a really powerful part of the marketing strategy. And ultimately, if stakeholders can see that through using social, you're actually bringing benefit back to the business, whether that's financial or otherwise with awareness raising or whatever that goal is, it's going to help everybody out.
Really. So it's not just about some people playing on Facebook during the day. It's about
exactly, which is definitely what people used to think I did when I before the agency, when I worked in-house managing social. I think the social media manager, it does feel like they've got a super fun job, and then they just go out and take photos and play on Twitter all the time. But actually, it's there's a lot more that goes into it than that.
So give me some examples of of goals that you set in your business for your customers.
Yeah, so a whole range really. It depends on whether they're B2B or B2C. But we've had a goal with a client where they were looking at gaining investment, and someone who was looking to invest said they wanted to see certain traction on social channels first. So they wanted to see a good size audience, they wanted to see high engagement rates, and then that in turn helped them to then fundraise their next round of money. We have goals for particularly advertising campaigns. So we run a lot of Facebook and Instagram ad campaigns for clients, and there will always be a goal to generate traffic to the site, and then conversions, which will ultimately end up buying a product or booking onto a service. we work with some clients where they're looking to use social media to fill the marketing funnel quite early on, so encouraging more people to know about them who didn't before. So there we'll always be looking at reach and impressions, and how many people are looking at the social channels today versus how many were last month or the month before.
Because I remember on the panel you gave an example of you've got a client who has a book subscription, and you actually did some things around COVID which weren't actually about. You ran a campaign. Hope you don't mind me saying this, but
no, yeah,
there was a campaign. It's amazing what you remember, which was about reading the book. Everybody has a pile of books by the side of their bed, and it was about reading those books. And it was more of one of those reach out and help people. But actually, it got the people to actually subscribe to the. I can't remember the detail of the subscription or why they subscribed. But there was a subscription.
They're a business called Rebel Book Club, and they are amazing and so much fun. And before COVID, a lot of their meetups, well, all of their meetups were in person, and it would be 100, 200 people in a room sipping cocktails and discussing the books. Obviously, that had to pivot and change very quickly. So we started a campaign with them called #14DayFinish. And it was open to not just members, but anyone who wanted to join to, like you said, finish off that pile of books that everyone has sat on their bedside table. Who, if you're not held accountable and motivated to finish with other people, then they find people just don't take part in reading. But obviously now during lockdown, reading is massive. And yeah, that was a very helpful campaign to raise awareness of what they were doing and their new virtual offering.
So in terms of the moving on from goal setting, that we need to find out the right channel to be on. How do we work that out? How do we know what channel to be on? Because I often hear people say you need to fish where the fish are, but if you don't know where the fish are, how do you fish? Is it LinkedIn? Is it Pinterest? What is it?
Exactly, yeah. So I'd always advise people think of this as kind of like a Venn diagram where you've got the two circles and you're going for the sweet spot in the middle. And really, firstly, with knowing which channels to be on, you need to think about where your audience is. Obviously, meeting them on the channel where they're already spending time will always be an easier task than starting up on a channel where your audience completely isn't. So to find out what kind of social channels your audience is using, you can always ask them. There's lots of different survey tools online. Perhaps you're in a business that's already built up different customer personas. So you've got some people that you could, have focus groups with, or send them a quick email or something to kind of find out not just about what channels they're using, but also who they're following, what their content consumption habits are, how they prefer getting their sources of information. Is it long form, short form, video, image, blog, etc. There's also tons of studies online that look at different age demographics and different interest groups and what they stereotypically are interested in looking at. And also just with the nature of your business and kind of the topics that you're talking about, there's some channels that will lend themselves better. So, a really kind of corporate, I don't want to say boring, but for lack of a better word, a really corporate, boring recruitment agency or something might struggle to find Pinterest content that would suit them really well. They might have a really clever way of doing it, but the average one wouldn't. Whereas a, wedding hairstylist that's trying to work with an audience of brides who are looking for really cool ways to do their hair on their wedding day, Pinterest would be perfect because your audience is already there searching. Yeah. So that's the one side of the Venn diagram, thinking about your audience. And then the other side is realistically considering the resource and the time that your business can dedicate to that channel. So maybe your audience is on YouTube and you could have loads of success if you posted a daily vlog to YouTube or something. But if you don't have the time to edit, the camera equipment, someone to host who's happy to be on camera, all of these different elements, you might launch the channel, do it for 2 weeks and then fall flat because it's overwhelming for business. So you need to have that kind of balance where your audience is there, but also you can fulfill the needs of that channel too.
So, and I think that's true. And I think there's too many people that go for too many things. I've got a guy who's doing TikTok at the moment, but he's got time to do it. And it's about experimenting for him. So he's actually creating funny LinkedIn content, which is different, but that translates onto TikTok.
Yeah. So
So
he's repurposing the content from LinkedIn.
yeah, so what he's actually doing is he's actually creating content for TikTok and then putting it on LinkedIn. And then that's actually, of course, that's standing out because on LinkedIn, because a lot of LinkedIn stuff is corporate.
Yeah.
But yes, I think what you've got to do is you've got to work out where your people are. I mean, you mentioned an interesting fact on that usage of social media had gone up by something like 50%. I know that usage of Twitter has gone up 30%. And that's because people are using Twitter because they want to understand the latest things that are going on. We always give the example about Twitter as if you go to if you're on a motorway and you come to a standstill and you get stuck and you don't know why, and you go to Google and you type in M25, you'll get the fact that there was roadworks 3 years ago. If you go to Twitter, there'll be someone at the front basically taking photos and posting photos of it, so you'll know exactly what's going on. And it's an instant thing, but it is very different from the LinkedIns and Facebooks, which are often about relationships rather than Twitter, which is not relationship based.
Yeah, exactly. If your business is looking at a topic or industry that is very current and things need to be up to the minute, and you can, maybe you're posting about journalism or TV or sport or something that kind of hinges around these moments that we can all communicate about, then Twitter is perfect. But if you're a company where you can't keep up with that demand and you don't have something, new or newsworthy to be saying all the time, then perhaps something more curated and a bit, slower in terms of the pace of content, like Instagram or something, would be better suited.
Yeah, I mean, Instagram's great because a picture paints 1,000 words.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've spoken to people who do boring business to business, but it's like, so for example, we have a client in North America that manufactures things, and well, that's not very interesting. And then actually, what we found out was that they weld things, and they weld things in a particular way. So we got someone to actually video this person welding it, and they put it on LinkedIn, and it went ballistic. And everyone's like going, wow, isn't that amazing the way that he welds and goes like this? And I would say to everybody, what you may think things are boring, but the fact that welding and, anything for people can be interesting.
Yeah, it's so true. I think ultimately people are people, whatever social media channel they're on. So it's not like when we go onto LinkedIn, we completely put on, our corporate hat and we're not the same person as when we're scrolling through Instagram a few seconds later. People have their social channels that they use and they hit up different places. And the welding example is a great one because it just shows that good content is good content wherever you post it. If the content is strong and it's something that, people can relate to and they want to share and comment on, then it will do well regardless of which channel to a certain extent. So I think not spreading yourself too thin is important. Being on the kind of having your core channels as the ones that are the ones you put the most focus on, which is maybe 2 or 3 channels you pick rather than going everywhere. But focusing on the content above anything really, and just testing and trialing things and seeing if you post something here, does it work, does it not work, and then you can learn from it. The great thing about social is there's so much data available to tell you immediate feedback of what your audience thinks about what you're posting. So you just really need to listen to it.
So let's talk about content.
Yeah.
Because I mean, content is so important for organizations nowadays, and I think that people misunderstand what good content is. So and obviously, as you just said, good content is different things to different people. What do you define as good content?
I think good content from a brand is something that doesn't even really feel like it came from a brand. It just feels like it would fit in with your day, with what your friends and family might be posting on social, with what a celebrity you see is posting, and it feels just like it was completely meant to be there in your newsfeed. So it's exciting, it's something you would want to share, something that, you know, entertains or educates you. And then on the flip side, bad content would be where it's something that you just scroll straight past because it's not engaging, or it's something that you think like, oh, that's really bad, and it actively, like, you notice it as being bad content. But good content is almost just unnoticeable because you're already sending it on to your friend, or you're laughing at it without really stopping to think about what made it so great.
So give us some examples of good content that you've seen or you've been involved in.
Yeah, so, well, good content, I mean, the first ones that come to mind are things that have happened during Corona. So there's been a lot of good content from brands, which stands out from a lot of the bad content that brands have put out during COVID. One post that I always think of is the Instagram post that Pret put up when lockdown was kind of just starting, and it was really in keeping with all of the images that they have around their store. It was an apple shaped like a heart, and the caption just said, you know, all drinks for NHS workers are on us. And it was shared so far and wide because it's just such a simple image with a very, very short caption, but obviously such a, you know, lovely thing to do and a really nice message and a great call to action. That's a one-off piece of content, but then there's been some really good content series that have come out of Corona, like the Body Coach's PE workouts every day that he's been streaming for kids and getting close to 1 million people watching each live stream. And it's so perfectly timed because he knows his audience of, you know, parents, people wanting to stay fit, where their kids are running around the house crazy during lockdown and they just want to be able to say, here, watch this for an hour and be entertained.
Yeah.
Exactly. And know that they can trust that person to put their kids in front of them for an hour, and that they'll get, you know, entertainment, but also some good exercise from it as well. So I think the popularity of that and you know, how much his kind of audience and everything has increased by during this time just shows that if you can nail the message and the way that you're delivering the content for your audience, completely tailor that for what your audience wants, you'll always see more success with it.
And I mean, I would use this as I'm not saying this is good content, but I would use this as an example. We don't ever come on here and talk about what our companies do. We come on and offer advice. And if people find this advice useful, then they will go and do their own research and go, oh, I'm going to look Corrie Jones. Oh yeah, she works with. Oh, okay, I'll give them a call. And so that's, for me, the way that content should work is that it should incite and it should educate. And if someone has this affinity with it, then they will do the work themselves to find out who you are.
Yeah, completely. Content is not a sales pitch at the end of the day. The sales pitch would be where someone's on your website clicking to buy, or if you're a service-based business where, you know, maybe they're on the phone to you or you're sending them a proposal or something. Content comes much higher up the marketing funnel. It might be someone's first touch point with your business is that they listen to a podcast or they read a blog post or something that you wrote. And so at that stage, you're just focusing on giving value. It's said so much in kind of marketing books and webinars and everything, but it's still, you know, so true and so critical. And I think not enough people still focus on just giving people value. They're looking for
help them, help them.
Returns. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you're a brand that helps people and you solve problems, you'll be a brand that's remembered, and people will want to engage with you beyond just that transactional level where they're buying from you. If you can encourage people to, you know, read blogs and look at your social posts and listen to your podcast and everything, then your brand becomes part of their life and you're helping their life, rather than it just being like, yeah, here's my money, buy now, and that's a one-time
30% off.
Yeah, exactly.
So fourth one, community management.
Yeah, so once you've focused on, you know, having the right channels and getting really great content out there, obviously you never want social media to just be a one-way broadcast where you are talking at people. The best social media channels that we see, and, you know, the aim that we have when we work on client accounts, is that it's a two-way conversation, and actually the people in your community are helping to grow your channels. They're bringing other interested people in their network onto the channels through, tagging them in content and sharing things. And there's a lot that you can do to be very active in your community management to help that as well. So responding to every comment and question and DM and everything that you get where someone's taken time out of their day to send you a message. And if as a brand you ignore that, it's not the way to go. There's the recent stats that I looked at for this on Twitter actually were that 50% of people who tweet a brand expect a response within 1 hour, and only 5% of brands reply at all. So there's a real disconnect between what consumers are expecting of having conversations with brands on social and what brands and their customer service teams are actually able to keep up with. So spending some time each day on the account for the brand that you're managing and just checking in, responding to people, but also being a bit active with your community management and seeing kind of what kind of conversations are my audience having that I could join in on. What hashtags might my audience be using that I could engage with and start following some new people and bringing more people into the fold of your audience that way through you actually going out and seeking them.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you need to be part of the conversation. And there are certain brands that that somebody is at the end. There's a human being at the end of that. Now, I know that with B2C that people often use social media as a mechanism to complain. So I'm going to say to everybody, also, if you get a good response from a brand, then praise them as well. But I mean, the amount of times that I've seen people comment and I've taken that comment to a conversation, taken it offline, and then sold them something.
Yeah, I know. I think people, I think sometimes are nervous to reply to people who've got in touch with their brand if it's negative or they're not always sure what to say. But it's just social media listening at the end of the day. And the best way to know what your audience wants is to chat to the customer service people for your brand, because they're speaking to them every day, and you see people at their worst when they're commenting on social media. So you get a really accurate portrayal, I think, of what your audience is like. But you also get some gems sometimes that we've seen some nice things recently with people finding comments on social media and actually uplifting them into maybe part of an advertising campaign. So I saw one yesterday for it was a mac and cheese brand, and they had a very, very simple video looping of just mac and cheese being pulled apart, so it was all kind of stringy and gooey and it looked delicious. And then they'd just put on top of that a screenshot of a Facebook comment someone had left on their page, which said, "My ex-boyfriend bought me your mac and cheese as an apology for being a sociopath. I didn't get back together with him, but I really enjoyed the mac and cheese though." And they put that on an Instagram ad, and I just thought that's so brilliant, because they could never be that funny and original as the brand themselves, but through putting that comment out there, which was just such a gem that they wouldn't have seen if they didn't do good community management. It's another good opportunity to get just quite engaging and simple but very effective content for your ad campaigns.
So measurement.
Crucial. Yeah. So step 5 of a
How do we measure social media? I keep being told all the time we can't measure it.
I know, and I think that's what leads people to think that it's just this kind of fluffy part of marketing.
They're the people that play on Facebook all day, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. I know, but the irony of that is that there's so many data points of social media that you can measure. So looking at both the vanity metrics, which would be likes, comments, downloads, views, anything that you can see on channel, and actually
and while they are vanity, they are an indicator. I mean, if you get 10 likes, then and another one you get 2 likes, that is an indicator that something is right or may even be wrong.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So really from those metrics you're looking, it's your way of listening to people telling you, I liked this or I didn't like this. It's like voting, where we vote for the party that we want to represent the country. The likes and the comments and the shares that people leave you is like the currency of them saying, yes, this was good, do more of this, and no, that was bad, I don't want to see that again. So you want to look at the vanity metrics to inform your content strategy. But then in tandem with that, you want to look at the more actionable metrics, like how much traffic is coming through to the website from social media. You can measure that through Google Analytics or another web dashboard. Google Analytics is free to use and it has endless amounts of data on it. And looking at, then when people travel from social to your website, do they end up buying? Do they read a blog post and then they come back next week and they buy something? And you can set Google Analytics up in such a way that you can actually track that. So you could put financial goals against people clicking a button or clicking to buy, and then you can see directly how much revenue social media has generated.
So that's about looking at who comes to your website and they may read a blog or something, but then they stay.
Yeah, like how many pages do they look at? How long do they spend on the site? Do they end up buying something? Do they end up clicking the contact button to get in touch? And you can track that all the way back from looking at which social media channel that person came from, and then how they engaged with your brand. Because you might find that on Instagram you get 100 likes per post, but no one really ends up buying from you, and it's just good for awareness raising. But then on LinkedIn, perhaps you get fewer engagements per post, but actually people keep clicking on the button to travel to your website, and then you end up making money from that. So having both of those metrics in mind means that you can get the fullest picture of what that ROI looks like from your social.
So have you got any examples of measurements or how you measure some of your clients?
Yeah, so actually on that point of how different channels can kind of seem different, it always makes me think of when I was doing community management for the University of Southampton social channels, and the most clicked on tweet ever was actually a reply to someone. So someone had tweeted saying, where can I get tickets for Professor Green, who is performing at the Students' Union? And we replied to that person. So again, good community management to always reply to people. And we sent them a link to the place on the website where they could buy tickets. And that link had over 250 people click on it. And it had one like just from the person who we'd replied to, just to say thanks. So from face value, you'd look at it and think, it's just a standard tweet, really. But then 200...
Just a conversation, yeah.
Exactly, yeah, just a conversation with that one person. But then through using Google Analytics, which was linked up to the website, or you could use something like Bitly as well to shorten the link, we could see that 250 people had clicked through to the website, and then could track how many people had bought tickets from there. So that's the kind of data that you want to be measuring, because then if there's someone in your team who says, why are we spending so much time replying to messages on Twitter, you can say, well, actually, this went to one person, but if we think about the lurker audience, there were 250 people who clicked to buy tickets, and that actually made the money for the event. So yeah, something like Google Analytics to measure the kind of tracking on the website, and then social media channels themselves have a lot of insights. Twitter has analytics, Instagram has analytics, Facebook, Pinterest. You can, if you've got a business profile on there, you can log into the analytics section and just take a look and see any kind of points that stand out where it's clear that this really spiked for likes or saves, and different kind of metrics that can then inform what kind of content you should be posting next.
You said a word there, lurker. Could you just explain what that is?
Yeah, so the lurker audience on social media is actually the majority of people. So the majority of people on social will not post anything. They will not comment on your stuff. They will not like it. And you think that they're not there, but they're always lurking. They're always watching, just kind of on the sidelines. And they will actually be just consuming your content still. Even if you post something and you feel sad because only 10 people liked your brand's post, it was still seen by maybe 100 people who, they're lurking in the corner, but they might pop up at some point to chat to you or buy from you. So it's always important to think about the lurker audience when you're thinking about community management and having those conversations, because it might be one person who comments on your Facebook post asking a question and you reply from the brand account, but it might be 500, 1,000 more people lurking who end up seeing that response as well, and you've helped them out too.
So I saw something recently, which is the lurker rule, which is the 99-1 rule. which is that 90% of people are lurkers, which is what you've just said. 9% of people are intermediate contributors, and just 1% of people are heavy contributors. Put that the other way around. 90% of people post 1% of 90% of postings form from 1% of users, 10% of posting from 9% of users, and no postings from 90% of users.
So it's a big audience, the lurker audience.
The lurker audience. Do not underestimate the lurker audience. It's amazing. The amount of people that come to me and said, "Oh yeah, I've been reading your stuff for 3 years." Have you? I didn't even know you were there.
I know, yeah, and it's creepy sometimes, but it's good because your audience
it's good.
is always bigger
It was
than you
creepy the
think.
first time. It's not anymore. It's good.
Yeah, I know, and I think it's a good message for people who are feeling disheartened by maybe feel like they're not getting enough likes or something on their photos, and actually it just shows you just need to focus on that consistency and keep posting, because you don't know. Sadly, people don't often get in touch to say, "Oh, I found this really helpful, thank you." They just think it to themselves, but you don't know still how many people you're helping by hitting send on that post.
Corrie, this has been really lovely and insightful. Thank you. 5 pillars of social media strategy: goal setting, right channel, content, community management, and measurement.
Exactly.
It's easy, isn't it?
Nailed it. Yeah, nothing to it. Putting ourselves out of a job.
Yeah. Correct. Remind people where they can get hold of you in case they are confused and they need some help.
Yes, I would be happy if anyone wants to send any questions through. You can find me on LinkedIn, which is Corrie Jones, or Twitter or Instagram, Corrie F. Jones. And you can find our website, Untapped Digital, is www.untappeddigital.co.
Perfect. Thank you. Corrie, thank you very much for today. It's been really, really helpful.
Thank you for having me.
And have a good day and stay safe.
Thank you. Stay safe too.
Thanks,
care.
Corrie. Take care. Bye.
Bye.